Good morning and welcome to another edition of Community Issues. I'm your host, Omar Rashid. I have two very special guests. I have Hector and Ryan. Good morning.
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 Okay, so Family Promise of Northern Newcastle County. You help families in need. So Ryan, can you just give a quick overview of what your organization is about and what the population serves?
Sure. So Family Promise of Northern Newcastle County is a nonprofit. Our mission is to prevent and end homelessness for families. So we serve families of all kinds, single moms, single dads, two-parent households, whatever the family size or composition is. And we keep families together, and we also help them move into housing as quickly as possible. So that's always our goal.
Okay, so when we say families, we talk about two or more people because if a person goes in by themselves, he or she's not eligible, right?
Right. Well, yeah. So family, we consider anyone with a dependent child. Could be in high school. For example, we had a family with a daughter who is 18 but still in high school, so that would qualify to us. Okay. Whatever sort of family structure is a family with a dependent, that's what qualifies.
And one of the clientels in your organization is Hector. Hector, how long have you been receiving services with Family Promise, and what led you to be there?
Well, I've been with Family Promise for about a month now. What led us to be there is I was working, excuse me, I was working, lost my job, hours went down, lost my job or whatever.
Right.
And eventually I became homeless with 3 kids at the time.
Right.
I was getting assistance from the Board of Social Services. I think that lasted about 20 some odd days for housing. One of the supervisors from one of the other centers in the Porter Center in Wilmington gave me a call in the middle, I want to say about 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
She just couldn't see me and my kids sleeping on the streets because my housing voucher had ran out.
Right.
And that evening, she tried to put me in a hotel with my 3 children. I had money in my pocket at the time, had about $100 left to my name. I went and got the hotel room myself. That very next morning, I went to her. We sat down. We stayed there almost all day long until they connected us with Family Promise.
Right.
And put us in a program that's unbelievable.
Right, definitely. So Ryan, I'm just listening to his story, Hector's story. In terms of referrals, do people actually get referred to your program, or could it be a walk-in?
Yeah. So in Delaware, there's a centralized system for homelessness referrals. So anyone who is experiencing homelessness or needs housing help, the most memorable way is probably to call 211, but you can also search for centralized intake.
Right.
They coordinate with most of the shelter and other homelessness agencies to see who has space, who would be the right fit. So for example, a single person would never be referred to Family Promise, or a family wouldn't be referred to an agency that only helps single people.
Right.
So this organization coordinates all that, and that's how families can get referred to Family Promise. So we don't take people directly, except for through centralized intake.
There are certain places here in Newcastle County, I'm not going to say any names, that they offer housing, well, shelter for homeless people. Maybe 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, they have to leave that facility and go wherever they need to go. So in Family Promise, if a family is there, are they required to leave that space, or can they allow to stay there all day? In addition, what type of case management services do you offer your clientele?
Yeah, so in terms of our shelter programs, our general approach is that parents have been independent before and they're going to be independent again, and we want to start with that level of trust and respect.
Right.
So families do have access to our facilities during the day. They can stay there. We have computers that they can use.
Right.
We have laundry machines, storage. We have a playroom for the kids. So, most of the time people are not there during the day, I would say. Folks like Hector are at their jobs, kids are at school, so usually it's pretty quiet. But if they wanted to be there during the day and they needed those services, they could be there.
So Hector, so have you been utilizing the services, I mean, outside of the shelter, but in terms of employment or any other services that's offered?
The housing help, yes. There's also my case manager also is trying to help me out with clearing up my credit.
Okay.
Just trying to figure out a way how we can bring that down,
Right, okay.
bring the debt down. So they help out with a lot of different things.
And that's crucial because with credit, sometimes if you apply for housing or jobs, people check that out for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely. So, Ryan, are you guys looking for volunteers? And if so, what are the roles of the volunteers there?
So we have volunteers actually 365 days of the year.
Okay.
A lot participate through their local congregations, others participate through their companies. Some people are just individuals who come and help out during the day. So we have a variety of volunteer roles from bringing food, dinners for the families.
Right.
We have volunteers who help do the laundry. We have volunteers who help sort donations.
Right.
We have a lot of different volunteer roles for what people might be interested in. Yeah.
Okay, so if a family comes in your organization, let's say that they're receiving monthly entitlements like SSI, SSDI, veterans benefits, survivors benefits, or whatever have you, are they required to pay a certain amount of rent because they have an income? Also, if they have food stamps, are they able to? Do you guys give them food? I assume you feed them. So if they have food stamps, are they eligible to get that food? I mean, despite the fact that they can get food on their own with their food stamps?
Yeah, no, I mean, families, the dinners for families in our shelter programs are for everyone.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a family-style dinner. Volunteers will cook or bring food, and then they all sit down together at a table. So volunteers will be eating with the families most nights.
Right.
And that's open to anyone.
Okay.
So, if you want to be there, great. If you don't want to, we can respect that too.
Right.
And, as for other benefits, that's that family's business.
Okay,
Our
gotcha.
business is to get them back into housing as soon as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there a length of time that the clientele can stay there? Like you can only be there for 3 months, you can be there 4 months, or is it whatever the amount of time that they need?
Yeah. Well, we have certain guidelines, of course, and certain policies that all the families know when they come in. But our overriding goal is to get families into housing as soon as possible.
Okay.
So the sooner that they can get into housing, the better. And usually that's in about 45 to 60 days, depending on the program. After that, we may continue to work with them for up to a year afterwards to make sure that they're still stable. So our philosophy and our approach is that the sooner that a family can get back into stable housing, the better it is.
Right.
The easier it's going to be from then on.
Okay, so with the housing, they're looking for an apartment, and they need a down payment because when you move into an apartment, you need security deposit and down payment, whatever have you. Do you offer financial assistance to put down for security deposit?
Right. That definitely varies on a case-by-case
Okay,
basis,
gotcha.
but yeah, I mean, there is a large upfront payment usually needed to move into an apartment.
Right.
Not to mention if you may have had utility payments from an old apartment,
Right.
things like that. So, we in our mission to help families get into housing quickly, we can often, assist with those things, again, on a case-by-case basis. But if there are obstacles to getting into housing, then we want to be able to address those.
Right. And Hector, you was working, and like you said, you lost your job. So you have 4 children, 1 girl and 3 sons. So how difficult was you to explain to them the situation from moving to where you was and into a homeless shelter, a place that helps homeless people?
It was very difficult. Believe it or not, we honestly cried together.
Okay.
Excuse me, when we talked about it. It was kind of hard to take in that living in an apartment and then dropping down to being inside of a homeless shelter.
Right.
And then, you have homeless shelters who will not allow you to go out there and go work unless you're working a minimum wage job.
Oh, wow.
And Family Promise isn't one of them shelters.
Right.
I actually have a good job. I'm a truck driver, of
Oh,
course, but they've helped out drastically in a lot of areas
Right.
where a lot of other agencies wouldn't have helped out.
Right. Now you work, so being a truck driver, I'm quite sure you're on the road a great deal. So with the 4 children, does Family Promise offer, daycare assistance?
Well, they don't offer daycare assistance,
Okay.
but my kids are all in school.
Okay.
But for the most part, my kids are probably there about an extra hour or two before
Okay.
I can get back home,
Right.
and or before they leave for school.
Mhm.
There is security on the premises, and there's always a staff member there
Right.
to
Right.
always kind of help out.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
they help out the best way they can.
Right.
They don't want everybody to feel like they don't want you to depend on them.
Right.
They want you to actually get out there and do it yourself.
Self-sufficient. Right.
But they do help out the best way they can with
Right.
whatever situations you're there.
And so when you very first day that you went to the shelter, I'm quite sure that there was some type of a treatment plan developed, whereas, how long you would stay there, where you're going to be looking for housing. So as a clientele there now, what do you see yourself in the next 2 or 3 months? Do you see yourself still staying there, or by the middle of the year, you look to have your own place?
No, I'm looking by the end of the month. Before the end of the month, I'm
okay.
looking
Oh,
to
you ain't
be
messing around.
in my
Okay.
home place.
Right.
I do work very hard, and I don't.
Right, definitely.
And I know there's other families out there in the same situation I'm in.
Exactly.
And they need the room.
Okay, gotcha.
And being as though I'm out there working, I know I can give myself and take care of myself with my
Right.
children now. It's just getting into a place right now
Right.
and moving forward and opening up another room for another family to come in and get the same help I did.
Okay, we have like 2 minutes remaining in this segment. I'm gonna give both of you gentlemen an opportunity for 1 minute to say any closing words to the audience for those who are in need. Right, and where are those people? Where are your clientele? Where are they being placed in terms of your organization? Do you have like a big house or something of that magnitude? Or
Yeah,
do you
well,
own
so,
your own building or something?
We have, we just opened a new facility,
Okay.
a new shelter program that actually doubled our capacity.
Okay.
So there are up to 6 families or 20 individuals in that.
Okay.
We have another shelter program where we partner with the faith community to provide shelter to an
Okay,
additional
great.
4 families or 14 individuals. And we have a couple other community-based programs too. But afterwards, our case managers connect them to get housing, where it suits the families. So we don't have our own, sort of private long-term housing.
Okay,
It's
gotcha,
wherever
gotcha.
the families
Okay.
end up. Yeah.
Well, that just explains the importance of networking with other organizations. Okay,
Yes.
any closing words, Hector?
No, just need some people to get out there and help out. There's a lot of families out there, serious need that
Right.
the system needs to help out. Single dads, single moms, families, we all need to help one way or another. Family Promise is one of the agencies that they actually need to get out there and help out. Volunteer, donate, do something, because
Right.
this organization has helped out a lot.
Okay, and Ron, if you could let the audience know your website, your phone number, and what is your position with the organization?
So I'm our Director of Donor Relations, and so I coordinate a lot of our fundraising, our communications activities. So our website is familypromisede.org, DE like Delaware, and the number is 302-998-2222. And we accept donations of items, household supplies. We also accept, of course, financial donations that
Right.
help to fund programs like the one Hector is in today. So, we have volunteers throughout the year, and any support is appreciated.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you both for coming on. I'm quite sure I'll be inviting the organization on again to give an update. And so thank you both for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Live right here on Lisa Access Channel 28. You're watching Community Issues. We're going to take a short break, and we'll return with my next guest. Good morning and welcome back to Community Issues. I'm your host, Omar Rashida. Now joining me live in the studio. She's actually making her first appearance on Community Issues. I've known her for a good while. She's with some Make Some Noise Prison Movement Reform. Rochelle Wilson, good morning.
Hello,
Okay.
Omar.
I've been
Thank
fancy
you
for-
so much.
no
I
problem.
appreciate you for having me.
Okay,
Yes.
so what is the movement all about?
Well, you know, most folks who are tuned in anyway absolutely know what the movement is about. But I've got to say this just off the last guest that you had. The brother was really making some strong points. I support that, and I encourage all of your viewers to really support that
Right,
organization.
Definitely.
In terms of my movement, it seems like things don't become important to us until they hit us home personally.
Right.
Once it becomes a personal issue, now all of a sudden it's important. I have lived 30, 40 something years of my life with not a thought about what's going on in America's prison system. It didn't affect me, and I wasn't concerned. I had other things to do with my life.
Right.
When they took my child, and as a mother, and I think every mother will agree with me that I can still, no matter how old he gets, he's still mine.
Right, definitely.
He's mine. So when they took my child and incarcerated him, the judge gave or sentenced my son to 25 years of incarceration for a liquor store robbery. Don't get me wrong, Omar. For what my son did walking in that liquor store, I'd whoop up on him my own self had the
Right.
courts not gotten a hold of him.
Right.
However, you don't deserve 25 years with no injuries. So that became a problem for me. So I started the movement to fight for my son, but in phone calls that he would make home to me, I could hear the wailing in the background of other inmates. I could hear the chatter and things going on in the background of the phone call. And then my son would tell me of atrocities that he's sitting in his cell and he heard or he saw or he looked out the window or the the little grapevine that goes on inside the prison. And he called me one day and said that he had seen some things.
Right.
He had experienced an interaction with two of the guards that created a bigger situation. And he said, "Mom, they broke me. I'm just done. They broke me. If that's what they wanted to do, then they broke me." And people would have to know my son to understand why that was such an unsettling phone call.
Okay.
You know, Justin's not breakable,
Right.
but they broke him. And I said, you know what? It's time for me to stand up.
Right, right. So you had a couple of community meetings, community forums that you addressed to the community. You just had a forum not too long ago. I believe it was last month. You want to talk about that?
The community forum, we got together because after I started my prison reform movement, which was a one-man band and a one-man show, I started linking and making connections and building relationships with people.
Right.
So now I'm involved with folks from the ACLU. I have a relationship with folks from the Department of Corrections, from, I have senators and House representatives, and these are people that I'm in their ear. So when they began to transfer all of the incarcerated people from Smyrna prison to out-of-state prison, Camp Hill, for intake, and then to other places around the country, it put my stomach on butterflies. I felt very afraid for my son because you don't know what's going on. So go to the meeting, and another mother and another wife and another family and people were there. And we're not happy about it. Now, we understand why they're doing it. And let me be very clear when I state this. I support Smyrna Prison and America's prison system in attempting to give us more programs, education, make things safer and more secure.
Right.
But there are other ways to do this besides moving 330 inmates. And that's what they're doing.
Wow.
So we, the loved ones, we're not happy with that. We will be meeting again this coming Tuesday, January 8th, from 5:30 to 7:30 at Woodlawn Library to discuss our movements forward.
Right.
And what do we want to do about that? So,
You know, when I was thinking about this particular topic, Michelle Alexander, who's the author of The New Jim Crow, one of the things that she mentioned is she was talking to a person who just got out of prison, and this is what he said to her: I got a felony. I can't get a job. I can't get public housing. I can't get food stamps, and I doubt if he can get any monthly entitlement. So in those type of situations could lead a person to go right back in the prison system.
The recidivism rate, and honestly, I really wish Justin were here, my son were here, because his stats and his information, he studies 17 hours a day. He can ramble them off for you like that.
Wow.
But the recidivism rate is an atrocity. If people are coming out of jail, out of prison, they have no family, no job, no education, no programs, nothing to help them. Are you really expecting them to come out and be successful? Or are you setting them up for failure? I'm crazy, somebody's crazy, I don't know.
Definitely.
We've got to change that. We've got to give them a right to vote. We've got to give them jobs. And some of them don't have families,
Right.
so they need
Exactly.
help.
Exactly. So they're coming out, they're pretty much homeless. The last situation, the last interview I had.
Yes. And you're setting them up for failure as a result of that. So they do 5, 6, 10, whatever many years, and then they didn't get any program in there. It might have got an anger management class.
Right.
Whoop-de-doo. We're really excited about that. And then you send them back out here.
Right.
What are you expecting them to do? Right? So this is what prison reform is all about. All of us have different agendas, but, excuse me, I'm thirsty. But I can honestly say that my movement is all about the inhumane treatment of what happens while you're in there.
Right.
My son is locked in a cage for 23 hours a day. How do you think that that is going to reform him? You're not offering him classes, and now Justin has a college education, 2 years, so that's good.
Right.
But they're not expanding on that. What about people who don't even have a high school diploma? Can we get them a high school diploma? So these are the things that I'm talking about. I sat in my bathroom on an experiment one day to see whether or not how long I could do it. I took all my tablets, all my electronics, everything,
Right.
took it out, and I sat in my bathroom. I have a very nice bathroom too, Omar.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just had it refurbished this year.
Oh, okay. All right.
But as beautiful as it was and
Right.
as comfortable as it was, I could not sit in there for more than a half an hour, 45 minutes, and I thought I was going crazy. Now imagine locking me in there
Right.
for 23 hours.
Right. And
That's not human. We don't do that to our dogs.
And just listen to that can make a person that while they're in prison develop a mental health, and then
Yes.
which is another issue of or their mental health needs being addressed, or they're getting medication, or they're getting psychotherapy. So I would assume that that's part of your movement as well.
Those two things are the strongest points of my reform movement. I mean, I'm involved in all of these other things because
Right.
I'd like to see other things happen, reentry, housing, and et cetera. But get them counseling, get them programs, give them an education, and stop locking them up for 23 hours a day. Unless a psychologist or a psychiatrist has said this person is a severe detriment to themselves or to other people, they should not be locked up for 23 hours. That's just inhumane, and no one's going to change my mind about that. So as it states now, I am reaching out to some of those senators that I've told you I've had an opportunity to begin to build a relationship with, and I'm putting the bug in their ear that this is what I'd like to take to Legislative Hall. Can we get something, can we write something up? Can we get it? Let's start fighting for passing. I'm in my Army fatigue. I'm ready for battle. And one of the holy books says to put on the full armor of God, your breastplate, your helmet, your thinking, guarding your heart. I'm ready. I'm ready for this battle.
Right. We have like a minute and a half remaining. For those who are watching right now and don't want to be involved in your movement, how can they contact you, and what do you look to do in the future with this movement?
Well, I'm not going away. Until they give me my son Justin back, I'm not going anywhere. But I would strongly encourage people to get in touch with the ACLU and to also contact me personally if you're on board with what I'm doing. It makes some noise. Prison Reform, msnprisonreform.com. I'm Rochelle Wilson. You can see me on Facebook. Justin Wilson, we're there.
All right. On that note, thank you.
Thank you for having me
so you're coming
and
back?
taking up all of the time
Are you
with
coming-
my
Are
platform.
you coming back to give us an update sometime?
Yes, actually I will. And again, Omar, please tell all of your viewers to come. Woodlawn Library this Tuesday, 5:30.
5:30, 7:30.
Yes.
All right. All right, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Community Issues. I'll be back in 2 weeks. God bless and have a safe week. I definitely will.